So yeah, I get negative attention all the time. I get hate all the time. But when it comes to Attack on Titan, I just can't resist. I feel like I haven't shat on Attack on Titan in a while. This will be a nice return to form. So let's set some ground rules early. We're gonna do our best to be cordial and gentle to what is a very small channel with very few views. This has less than 1,000 views. But I searched my name at the right time and I was just like, how did I even find this? So I search my name pretty regularly, especially when I've released a recent video. And when you search your names, people that are talking about you show up. When people mention you, you always come up. But also when people are talking about the same thing you're talking about, you'll come up. This one will probably have popped up in a couple of days anyway, and you'll see why in a second. But did a name search earlier today, and this popped up, and I was like, oh, Attack on Titan beef. Yes, please. Yes, we're obviously gonna be giving the channel a little clout, but like, you know, this may not be the worst thing ever. The first part of it, I get some suspicions, and I'm only gonna react to the part that mentions me. The creator gives radical centrist vibes. Are radical centrists just contrarians? No. I would say that the current radical centrists to me are right-leaning liberals. But yeah, so let me give background. So Attack on Titan. I first mentioned Attack on Titan on YouTube, here we go, 3 years ago. And it's because I compared Aaron Yeager and his appeal, right? So I mentioned him first in Connecting the Manosphere, and then I finally understand Edgelords. And that might be the last time I mentioned him on the main channel. And then on the side channel, I've mentioned him twice. Specifically, I did a mini essay on Attack on Titan when it ended. And ever since then, the Attack on Titan fanboys have been on my head. They've never forgiven me. There's this one Redditor that has mentioned me in like 500 different posts. I mean, because this part of the game, you learn things. First off, when people are obsessed with you, you kind of gotta know who they are as much as you can. And so I have no problem constantly going back and forth with and just being a troll with and getting in the slop mud with the Attack on Titan fanboys. This pops up, and I don't know if this person's an Attack on Titan fanboy. They definitely have some things in here. I'm like, I see what you did there. This is still a discourse to some people. This person seems to be very much a drama tuber, so I'm definitely adding fuel to the fire. Once they figure out I did this, if this ever comes out, this will not be the last time I hear. What? They had some things to say, and it made me really want to talk about it. They brought up a point they thought they cooked with, and they didn't. So here we go.
And one of my earliest videos was a theory about Attack on Titan's one-shot and the original direction of how the Titans work. When it comes to breadtube videos, they're essays that consist of pretending they're saying something of substance while saying next to nothing at all. It's as if they all share the same bulletin board of points and terms they have to brainlessly throw around that they have to include in the video. It is inevitable that they spit out a buzzword salad of the same buzzwords. Once you've seen one or two videos, you've pretty much seen them all. As a fan of Attack on Titan, I'd like to explore that avenue specifically and just how exactly these people are wrong. I came across a video that I think represents everything wrong with the accusation and the people backing it, titled Attack on Titan and the Road to Fascism.
So this video is 2 hours responding to a Lost Futures Attack on Titan video. His first one. Now, Lost Futures has returned to this topic a few times, and other people have made videos that are even better, if I'm honest, than Lost Futures video. But it's this video, which is also 3 years old, which is funny to me. Well, you'll see why in a second. He said, bro didn't watch the whole video he's bringing up. No, he did. I skimmed through it. He responds to the whole video. But I want y'all to peep how he introduces me.
By a channel called Lost Futures, and it only shot to popularity because a breadtuber who has been accusing Attack on Titan and its author Isayama of being fascist, FD signifier.
Attack on Titan is an anime show based off a manga that started in 2009, and it's not your usual Dragon Ball or Pokemon or something maybe more puerile. It's the closest thing that I think anime has gotten to Game of Thrones. All right, so now we have literally been watching my video as long as we've been watching his video at this point. Video essay 101. You never need to show someone else's content this long. This is not even on some I'm offended, how dare you use my content stuff. It's because none of this is pertinent to his argument. I don't know if he actually, let me see. Hope that the writer who had shown some concerning inclinations over the years to be low-key into fascism, that maybe none of that was true and that he would bring it all together in a way that made sense. He did not.
Promoted the video in one of his videos where
So he played a good minute of my video, uncut, uncommented, and then it served no purpose. He could have just said, FD signifier, showed a picture of me, and then went to this here. And I'm just like, oh, this is just bad. I'm not even getting to the argument yet. It's the craftsmanship of it all.
Now, that was a brief clip, but if you...
That was not a brief clip.
FD refers to Attack on Titan and Aaron as a punching bag on his channel for a reason. He's been crying about it any chance he can get. If there is even a slightest possibility that he can use mental gymnastics to connect Aaron to some other topic he's talking about, I assure you he will gladly do it.
All right, so let's wait for him to address my arguments. Right, and obviously I'm crying. I literally have fun with this. And let me put this out there. I've always been a huge Attack on Titan fan. The ending is what killed it for me. And I've said that clearly. I even said that in the segment that he played. I don't think I was crying in that segment. I just think the way that the story ended was awful and that Aaron Yeager was a loser. I've never cried about this. It's never been an emotional appeal. It's mostly just been,
hey y'all, do you see this? It sucks.
But you know,
Signifier is not really his opinion on Aaron Yeager, but more so the contrast when he talks about Aaron versus him talking about Killmonger. Specifically,
how dare you? They're comparing Aaron Yeager to Eric Killmonger. That is his gotcha for me.
Flashback.
But still, for me, it was more about how this all was treated. It's one thing to reveal your villain to be a pathetic loser. It's another to make his actions seem sensible and justified. To me, it's like Isayama didn't want to commit to enshrining this main character as the true villain his actions showed him to be. In the manga version of the ending, instead of solidifying that Aaron was an irredeemable mass murderer, Isayama tries to soften the blow by making it seem like Aaron was such a huge victim of circumstance, and that maybe in the grand scheme of things, his actions weren't all that bad. It's completely toned up to its own reality. The story wants us to empathize with a villain, despite the villain being way past the point of empathy. Like in Black Panther, we empathize with Killmonger, not because he was a victim of trauma caused by others, namely Wakandan elitism, but because he is ethically correct in his intentions. His belief in a unified Africa fighting against global oppression is undoubtedly the right thing to do. It's just not being done effectively by him. On the flip side, we have a character like Thanos. Thanos also has trauma in his backstory, but unlike Killmonger, Thanos is inherently wrong in his beliefs. His Malthusian-esque desire to kill half of all the people in the universe for the sake of balance is wrong from the get-go, and legit doesn't even work after he's done with it. We empathize with why he believes what he believes. We are entertained by him as a character, but never as viewers of the story are we asked to get in line with his goals or believe in his ideology. Some weirdos in any way, probably the same type of people that say Aaron or Griffin did nothing wrong, but the story clearly did not ask them to come to that conclusion. In Attack on Titan, they try to give Aaron Killmonger's ending with Thanos' actions and ethics. The author doesn't want us to fully condemn Aaron for killing billions of people for literally no specific reason other than he wanted to do it. Isayama wants us to sympathize with genocide because he wrote it in a way to make it seem like it was justified without actually making an effort to justify it, and no.
End of flashback.
And mind you, he does this multiple times in the video. Multiple times in the video, he compares the Eldians to Black liberation movements. He compares us to the Black Panthers and to Pan-Africanists.
two characters who are very similar. Both are oppressed, traumatized individuals, particularly as children, who lose their parents early on, and both of them are molded into what they become from their trauma and pain. They both want to end the oppression of their people, and both resort to imperialist tactics to do so, eventually leading up to genocide. The difference being that Killmonger was stopped before his global destruction could be done. Both of these characters also became a crying mess when trying to rationalize their actions right before they died, such as Killmonger practically
So, Moldy Banana Muffins, thank you very much. Aaron killed his own mother and his father. So that's kind of an important detail to point out, is that Aaron killed his mother in the name of his liberation movement. Furthermore, and as he points out, which is very important, Killmonger did cry. This is good. That part is true. But had Killmonger been successful, Marvel via Disney's The Black Panther at a global white genocide for the sake of African people, it would have been treated as the most horrifyingly offensive thing to have ever happened in media, which is why they didn't do it. Regardless of how you feel about Killmonger's behavior, which I've been on record to point out multiple times was wrong, which he distorts here in a second. But the first thing you have to recognize is that if Eric Killmonger, the Hotep fantasy, had been successful at causing a global genocide of predominantly white people in the name of African and Black liberation, and they just put that in the movie, that movie would have been buried under the ocean and then thrown into a volcano at the same time somehow. So the fact that I naturally feel a similar revulsion to when Aaron Yeager does it in Attack on Titan, I don't know why that's considered a contradiction. But Attack on Titan has such chronically online fanboys that they can't see how some people draw the line at genocide, even in the fantasy world. But yes, Aaron Yeager killed his own mother. Like we're already falling apart.
Confessing that he was hurting the world because it hurt him and took everything away from him. Both of them talk about killing.
Also notice, despite other flaws that I've talked about at length, and I'll get to again here, Killmonger is unequivocally the villain in his story. Aaron Yeager is at best what do I want to call it? A sympathetic villain? Is that fair to call him a sympathetic villain in Attack on Titan? An anti-hero, I'm trying to steel man. Anti-hero, I'm gonna say, I'm not even gonna put that on him. I'm gonna say by the end, he was an anti-hero at certain parts of the show. And then by the end, he becomes a sympathetic villain.
They both have their rise to power moments shirtless. Yet FD Signifier particularly mocks Aaron for being stoic and badass and Sigma and all this other stuff, but none of that applies to Killmonger, apparently. And for another...
Why doesn't this apply to Killmonger, chat? Take a guess. Reason number one, Killmonger is black. While black edgelords are definitely a thing, Killmonger did not appeal to edgelords. Killmonger has appeared in no Sigma male grind set YouTube shorts. Killmonger's mission wasn't genocide, it was revolution, even if we disagree with the principles behind it. Furthermore, Killmonger's fan base doesn't like Killmonger because he's an edgelord fantasy. Population of people, especially before the last movie of Attack on Titan, that love Aaron Yeager, it was because specifically he was an edgelord fantasy. Killmonger has stands. He does have stands, but Killmonger stands are Hoteps. And those groups, both are cringe. I want to be clear, but they're not the same. So no, I wouldn't make those same comparisons towards Killmonger. What made Killmonger cool was they said, what if we took Malcolm X, but also made him Batman, but also made him the Punisher? And that's really dumb, but it sounds kind of awesome. I get it. The Hotep in me gets it. And the edgelord in me liked Aaron Yeager. I got it. Super badass, doing MMA moves as a Titan. But edgelords and Hoteps are cringe for very different reasons. They're both cringe. And what he's trying to insinuate, which you'll see by the end of this section, he's trying to insinuate that I don't actually critique Killmonger because he's black. Can edgelords and Hoteps be comparable? I think there's plenty of things to compare. I think both edgelords and Hoteps, project fantasy onto the real world, which is where most of their problems lie. And then projecting that fantasy into the real world, normal people who are more well-adjusted say,
it sounds dumb and stupid.
The difference, and I'll get to in a second, is that Hoteps are at least tangentially connected to an actual political tradition that is useful and meaningful. And edgelords, not so much.
FD Signifier avoids approaching it from Aaron's perspective to understand why Aaron is the way he is, why he has the view he does, and why he became radicalized, simply mocking Aaron with edgelord and Sigma, crying that it's abhorrent.
I want to be clear. I mock Aaron to make fun of his fanboys. I completely understand the logic of how Aaron arrives at where he arrives. I mock him specifically for his fanboys. I'm not going to pull this up on stream, but I'm just going to show the last video I did on Attack on Titan on the side channel where I explained this. That it's the edgelords that like Aaron that I'm mocking. It's not necessarily Aaron, it's the edgelords. And I'm trying to show exactly what Isayama did through Aaron, that Aaron's edgelord behavior is all facade, and he's really a whining loser. And the hardcore Attack on Titan fanboys and edgelords, that's what they hated about the ending. That's what I've always been talking to. That is my main target in this.
Despite these similarities, FD Signifier avoids approaching it from Aaron's perspective to understand why Aaron is the way he is, why he has the view he does, and why he became radicalized, simply mocking Aaron with edgelord and Sigma, crying that it's
I realize this must be what hurt him specifically, is the fact that I made fun of edgelords. Because everything else is really not true, but we'll come back to that.
Abhorrent that the story has such an ending. When talking about Killmonger, He doesn't call him a fascist, and he doesn't call him an edgelord either.
All right, so this is categorically untrue. I didn't call him an edgelord, right? But let's go watch my first Black Panther video.
The sun will never set on the Wakandan Empire.
It's Wakanda as the empire reproducing the same oppressive hierarchy that already exists, just hopefully with black people on top. Revolutionary Pan-African ideologies have been melded with conservative and fascist ideologies, create despots and dictators in Africa, such as Muammar Gaddafi, Robert Mugabe, Papa Doc in Haiti.
So, furthermore, because he keeps going with this, right? Where's he at?
No, he's more than happy to approach it from an understanding angle. He says that Killmonger is misunderstood, that he's a fantasy representation of black radical resistance imagery. He describes him as pretty awesome.
In the movie The Rock, Brigadier General Francis Hummel is played by Ed Harris, and he has created a splinter cell terrorist group of ex-American soldiers.
I love that he used this, so let's keep watching.
Who were betrayed by the American government and are trying to settle the score. This type of villain became very popular and palatable in the 90s because that's when the effects of late capitalism and neoliberalism started to be more palatable and affecting to the American people. People began to understand that the real villains were a lot of these systems failing American citizens and creating the conditions to make villains, and thus pure evildoers can't quite cut it anymore for American media consumers.
He's even proving my point here. What's funny is that he left in, this dude is so lazy. He left in his own mouse clicker. Like here, you can't, like, there's my mouse clicker up here, right? Over here. This is his mouse clicker on the pause button. And he's literally letting me disprove his point on his own video. Again, we're padding. Again, we're padding.
Got these. They paid a fair price, or did they take it like they took everything else?
All jokes aside, this is just bad video etiquette. Because if I'm just a fan of this creator, I did not click on his video to hear me. I did not click on his video to hear him play someone else's video for literally like 3 minutes now. Some YouTube videos are only 3 minutes long.
His tone and attitude is entirely different with Killmonger.
That's crazy. Cause Pete, he played 4 minutes of my video. And parts of what he played already disproves his point. But let's continue. I'm gonna let him continue for a second. But I want to show you what he did.
And the why becomes obvious when you consider that FD signifier specifically associates white men with loving edgelords, and him
Again, not true. Again, not true. That is definitely something that is a white guy thing. White guys lead the edgelord charge. But edgelords, I've been one of the only people to point out that certain communities are way more diverse than people give credit to. But you know, we'll continue.
Constantly calling Aaron an edgelord. That said, this video isn't about him. I might end up exploring more of that.
All right, so that's the end of my section. I want to show y'all something though. So he played literally 4 minutes of this video. He managed to play. He thought it was fine to play 4 minutes of my video. What do you mean the video's not about him? I'm afraid to see what he said about Lost Futures, but I'm gonna let Lost Futures respond if he wants to respond, because I don't really want to get too deep into this shit. I just thought this was so egregious. So he played 4 minutes of this video, and his argument, and y'all let me know if I'm strawmanning his argument, but his argument seems to be that I am critical of Aaron Yeager in ways that I am not critical of Killmonger. Right? Specifically that I call Aaron Yeager an edgelord, and I make fun of him for being an edgelord. Now that part is true, but the core of this video is about the politics of Attack on Titan, the politics of Aaron Yeager. And notice how he doesn't allow me to talk about the politics of Killmonger, the more material necessary element to his argument.
However, what he actually says is that he wants to create a Wakandan empire. His plans aren't liberation, but domination. He even used the classic phrase used by Great Britain in the 19th century, the sun will never set on the Wakandan empire, except in reality, it was the British Empire. He also killed his black girlfriend for kind of no reason, and then choked another random black woman for kind of no reason other than intimidating people, which is really smart script writing to do all that wild, crazy stuff before we actually get to know him as a character. But that same level of slickness is also problematic because the movie essentially employs white supremacist framings of black liberation and radicalism. Killmonger is trying to do the mythical white genocide, and like, how can you root for him under those circumstances? When you
how can you root for someone trying to commit a genocide? How? I can't. Some people can. Some people can. I cannot. So clearly he watched this. Well, we saw him watch the video. But I guess that part doesn't count. He watched it at least twice. This is how I've talked about this character the whole time. And the point I've always made about Killmonger and why Killmonger is a problem is explicitly because of how bad Killmonger's actual politics are. So let me clarify this for anyone that does, if this does come out. Killmonger's goals of Black liberation are good. Killmonger's politics are bad. And his politics are bad because he wants to do some white genocide shit. He wants to create a new imperial nation just ruled by Black people.
A better version of Killmonger was possible. Like, you could do one of two things. Either just make him fully a real Hotep based on the buffoonish actions of Umar Johnson or Tariq Nasheed and give him none of the real politics and show that he was always a shyster to begin with. That still would be problematic, but it would at least be following along a traditional line of actions around that type of...
Because Killmonger is a Hotep. And the problem with Killmonger and with Hoteps is that they take the actual legacy of Black liberation movements, of Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism, and they turn it into what people like this straw man, the energy of the Black Panthers and the Black Liberation Army and Malcolm X and all these things. He takes all of that really good stuff and he puts in FBA Tariq Nasheed bullshit. Not FBA, because I guess FBA wouldn't be Pan-African in any way. But you get my point. Conservative right-wing nationalism with a Black face. Killmonger makes this guy's argument that Killmonger and Aaron Yeager are the same possible. Is Edgelord a slur now? I guess maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. And I think that's something people don't understand. There's Black nationalism and then there's Black people doing nationalism. FBA, ADOS people, those are Black people doing nationalism because they don't want to go against empire. They don't want to liberate all oppressed people. They don't mind the oppression of immigrants. It's fundamentally white nationalism with a Black face. Black nationalism is about sovereignty, nationhood in Africa. All Black people connecting to the African continent in some ideological or possibly material way. Which is why you can never compare white nationalism to Black nationalism, because white nationalists have no oppressors. They have no legitimate claim to oppressed identity status. They may say they do. They say it's the Jews. But that also is what makes them anti-Semitic and white supremacists. Callie Akil, that's a great point. They oppress themselves much like Aaron Yeager. Aaron Yeager literally calls the Titans to break the walls and kill his family so he could come back and be like,
we gotta kill the Titans. The Titans did this to us.